Calvin T. Mann, leading EMIY, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIY TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Whoa, good afternoon. Glad to be in the building. Just excited to have a special guest. The Queen. The Queen is in the building. I didn't get put out this time. We in here together to have the discussion about suicide prevention, maybe some signs you should be looking for. We only have an hour, so we're going to be able to get some stuff in. And Book, how you doing? It's good to see you.
I'm good.
Good to be seen.
Yeah.
Good to have gray in our beards. Also,
I embrace my gray.
Yes, sir. In the building is the executive director right next to me, Hetheru, the Queen, right? In the building discussing suicide, right? This subject came up when the young lady, the former Miss America, Miss USA, they talked about how she was helping other people, how she was mentoring other people. And so everyone has been having this conversation. I say, we've been talking about suicide for a bit, changed our whole website over to the suicide prevention colors, right? Because we understood and started a smash suicide campaign for boys 5 to 11, our number one. And so what a difference. We have this conversation about suicide. And so Heather and I was having this discussion, and I wanted her to have her perspective. And we were going to ask you, the public, to also help us continue the awareness by donating. You can go to EMIWorld.com and donate. You can also Cash App us. The Cash App is going to be put up. You can call in. Before we get into it, hi, Heather. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad we could be in the building together to have this discussion.
It's an important conversation to have, yes.
Yes, I think so. It's also, right, for me, for EMIY, for us, it's a way that we've had this success. And so we're going to share some of those things about suicide, things that we've been doing that allowed us to have the success that we're having with boys and youth, right? But before we get into that, I wanted to really take the course of what are you seeing as far as suicide and some of the information about women, right? Because we know women and men are committing suicide. Suicide is up, right? We're always looking at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. We're always looking at statistics, right? Sometimes 12 o'clock, sometimes 7 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right? We're always looking at something that is impacting families and youth and husbands and wives, and right. Of course, I stay in my lane, so I stick to the male. She stays in her lane. She does the women, right? So, Miss Miller, give us a take about suicide.
Well, there are a couple of different ways to look at what's happening in our community. Part of it is grief and loss. Some of it is a sense of, where is your sense of hope and versus hopelessness. Some of those symptoms come from having some expectations that may have been unmet. Some of them even come from people who are facing illnesses, whether that's mental illness or physical illness, that are long term, that they choose to end the possibilities now. And so, the one important thing to remember about suicide and suicidal ideation is that it is a temporary solution. And it's a permanent solution to a temporary circumstance. And I think that is important. I just want to just point out this very one important thing that I learned recently. And if you have experienced, if you have family or friends that have the experience of having sickle cell, my brother actually has sickle cell trait, but it was important to him for this particular illness. It's a long-term illness. One of the important findings that I recently learned, and that was yesterday, is that there is a cure. And it was from someone who was close to me who mentioned that part of the cure was the stem cell. So it came out of the stem cell research. And so how there was a young boy, actually. He was born, of course, with the trait, and then they weren't expecting him to live past the age of 7, and he's 14 now. And his brother, one of his younger brothers, was actually a donor, and his donation of those stem cells helped to save his life. And so his sickle cell, the impact on his life no longer has that kind of impact over him. And so I'm saying that to say that for people who may have long-term, that are facing long-term health challenges, whether that's physical or mental health challenges, and you think that that's the end once you get a diagnosis, I think that's important that people understand that there are turnarounds every day. And so there are turnarounds to our circumstance and our situation. But if we're not here long enough to take those steps and hold the faith for those things, it can feel heavy. And so one of the important things, and I can speak from experience in my own life's journey, that some years ago I was also faced with suicide, both the ideation and the actual attempt. And so my story for Only Grace is different, and I'm here to share it with you. So I have, and I talk a lot more about it in detail in my book. I wrote a book called Cardinal in Red Dress, and that book is around my issue, my circumstance that sent me in that direction was about grief and loss. I lost my best friend at the time, who had just given birth to her first and only son, and she died from complications within a matter of days. And at the same time, I was going through a divorce. And so the weight of all of that just weighed so heavy on me that it didn't make me want to live. And I did seek out help. At the time, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't the kind of help that I needed to help me navigate that space. My friends and family, they did an intervention for me, and it wasn't enough even then. And it was because I could not I did not know that there were seasons and cycles to grief, and that there are stages. So it seemed like it would never end. And so because I didn't know enough to look for help in the way that there is an end to grief. There is an end to loss. It doesn't mean that you don't still love and miss those people in your life, but it does mean that the feelings, just like for if you've ever faced a traumatic event or a cut or a bruise, or you think that pain, when you're experiencing that pain at that time, is going to continue, but that those wounds do heal. The pain does subside, and it had been maybe probably about 2 or 3 months for me that I had carried that burden, and it was very difficult to carry, and I gave up. I quit. And again, it's only by grace that I'm still here to share this story. But what I want to bring to you is that, one, that even in grief, there are stages. Even in the circumstances that we face that lead us down those dark roads, there's circumstances. And then there are seasons for those circumstances, and those things do come to pass. You can still survive. You can still find a way. And so I really, this particular topic in our organization is a really important one personally to me, because I think people need more information and people need more tools. We have to know how to help each other through these dark moments, through these dark seasons. And so if we don't have enough information, first, if we're not even aware that it exists, the biggest area of concern is that you don't know. And that's what we miss with our kids. That's why we're losing so many of our children, is because we don't know to look for the signs, and we don't know what those signs look like. And we can brush it off, oh, like, they're going to be okay. You're all right. You're just, having an X. You're having a fit. You're just having a tantrum. But we have to really pay attention to how people are experiencing and living their experiences. Do they have enough information, tools, equipment? Do they have enough avenues for healing? We have to actually take those things seriously. And so one of the partnerships that we have is with, let me get this right, is QPR.
QPR.
Right. Question,
Persuade, and refer.
Right. And so that particular partnership, that training is a one-day, kind of for a few hours, but it gives you enough insight and information to make that choice to listen first. Listen, because our first instinct is to tell somebody what to do. And so sometimes telling somebody what to do isn't enough. We need to have some tools for that. And so we also on our website have a hotline number, a suicide hotline number. It's not just for the person who is in that state of contemplation, but it's for those who recognize that they have someone in their midst that is also in that state. So when you look at those very things, right? We were talking about, because that is ultimately the key, right? The real key, right? The other day I said something to somebody about, let's do a podcast about suicide, and the answer is why our children really, to me, are in trouble when we think like this. And the statement was, why don't we just pray for the kids and let that happen, my guy? Like, that was it, right? And so I understand that people don't know, right? Because some people are afraid to look at it. It is absolutely
right. That was our biggest problem. I remember talking to Stacy's mom, and she was saying how DPS didn't even want her to come into school to talk about it, because it was like like a jinx or something, Mm-hmm. And you see it countless. To be clear, right? To be clear about this message, suicide knows no color. It just takes. It's taken, and it's taking lives. And so, there are some things that we need to, share with you. But I want to start the process again behind what you just said, which was beautiful. I want to address the elephant in the room, which is why, this is my question to you, why do women attempt more? I got an answer as to why men, right, execute more, mm-hmm. right? But why do women attempt more?
That is a interesting question. And of course, we all know that everybody's journey is different. And so, but some of the common things that I've seen in my work, in my history, in my research, is that when you are tasked with so much that you have to anchor so many things in so many places, it can get heavy. Mm-hmm. And so we tend to carry a lot of baggage. We tend to carry a lot of misunderstandings. We tend to carry a lot of expectations. And so I'm speaking on not those whose choices or journey may be health related, like physical illnesses and things like that. So I'm not talking about that particular struggle of that woman. I'm talking about the one that has to be the provider, the one that has to be both parents. And whether she set up that circumstance or not, she still is left to deal with it. So sometimes not having the right tools, not being able to forgive, not being able to heal, not being able to accept responsibility for some of the paths and the choices that we've made. Those things are sometimes cradle our circumstance. Those are some of the things too that haunt you. So even as a woman, you're dealing with this sense of haunting, like you have to try to overcome and persevere. But on the other side, you get tired of fighting. You get tired of carrying. You get tired of sometimes even doing things alone. And so another area that I want to just say that this does not necessarily meet this woman, but the absolute mental health challenges that we're facing as a community. Some of the unhealed wounds, but they also go back a little bit deeper. And so I want to share this, and I know this is going to be painful for a lot of people to hear, but the issue of abortion is huge in suicidal ideation. So if you can imagine that around 29,000 just was documented, because in most communities and upper and more influential communities, they don't count the number of abortions coming out of that community. So, but in just the state of Michigan, there are over 29,000 women a year that experience or choose abortion for whatever her reasons are. Because you go through that process, it does not disconnect your connection. And so that's a deeper wound. That one, if you did it under the cover of no one else knowing or no one else understanding or very few people knowing about your choice, you are carrying that burden alone. So that's already a ton of bricks that you carry every day for the choice that you had to make. So you're carrying this very painful brick that you're keeping silent and secret. So you're carrying that, and then life on top of that, other relationships, other responsibilities, all of that. But even on top of all of those things, you're still carrying that hurt that that a lot of women find difficult to heal from. And so just that burden alone, that's already 29,000 women. 29,000 women just in our state. That's documented. They suspect that it's 3 times that number a year. So that constant choice, that is, is part of that pain. So, and until we have the right set of tools to be able to heal, to be able to forgive, to be able to honor who you are and who you are becoming, that decision was made at a time in your life, at a point in your life. You are a different person. Even once you make that decision, you're a different person. And so I think that's a huge connection point for where a lot of women are in terms of that choice.
So to add, right, because that hopelessness carries, right, because that's women are there, right. Then we're saying the men. So now we're gonna look at the men, right. So men see themselves now, the new men, marginalized, not cared for. Men deal with sexual identity, right? Abuse, a number of things that we deal with. But the number 2 way for a man to die is suicide after divorce. Right? So suicide after divorce takes men out of here. So where's Bill? Well, Bill, Bill is going through a divorce, and we find that next thing you know, Bill is gone, right? In the African American community, we like to just cover that up, right? Bill committed suicide. Well, we don't want to say Bill committed suicide.
No, we don't.
Research will show you that suicide is also covered in insurance, right?
Yes.
So now that's a whole nother dynamic, because now you don't have to go off for hearsay, right? But males are executing themselves at a very high rate. The number one way is a firearm, right? Then men are hanging, right? That's another way. And then overdose, severe overdose, right? To recognize some of the information and getting in depth, because it's just that brief. I'm in pain after this divorce. Usually for the man, it's money, which is amazing to me, like, because the mindset is you can always make some money, but I guess if you lose a lot of it, depending on who you are, it really impacts you. And so then now I can't see my kids. So that's a double impact, right? So that double impact to me, along with the lack of self-esteem or the ability to recover,
Resilience. Absolutely.
the resilience is huge, right? So a lot of that goes out the window, and God forbid you on the wrong medicine.
That's
right.
Thank you for bringing that one up.
Yep,
Yes.
you're on the wrong medicine. I seen a post the other day. Somebody said, there are over 200 medicines that talk about affect you with suicide, pharmaceutical medicines, right?
Right.
But it's more, right? It could be your DNA. Your DNA, somebody in your family was suicidal or even committed suicide. It's passed even through your DNA, right? These are things that they're discovering even more so, the mindset. What you can pass through your DNA is amazing. But my point for talking about that, the male is impacted. Here's another thing that a lot of people don't know. Almost 1 million people a year commit suicide. So when we talk about what God is doing, but this is globally, right? But when we talk about what God is doing, wow, right? Because if you're losing 800 million, what are you having? Because we're still having children, right? The other component to what affects men is his health. So my health gets so bad, it's not necessarily that I'm going to take my life, but poor health eventually takes your life. Maybe you had a downward spiral. You didn't necessarily commit suicide after the divorce. What happened was you no longer took care of yourself.
Right.
You went into a dungeon. So for me, when I went into my divorce, and I'm writing about this in the book, Parenting from Brokenness, right? I understood the spiritual terror, what that meant for me and how I was going to handle it. And a lot of people, again, a lot of us don't understand how to handle a breakup. I seen someone recently literally say, just like that, boom, the divorce, this is on Facebook, I'm going through a divorce, and every picture after that, I'm back out there, I'm dressed, I'm in my clothes, and it's not that I'm talking that I'm a break. I'm putting myself on display for somebody else to come along, and we need those breaks. In a relationship, you need to break to heal yourself, fight for yourself, love on yourself, right? Figure out some things where you want to be better for yourself. That's tough. For me, I was coming out of a long-term marriage, and I'm like, okay, what is it that I really want to do, right? And it took me a second, and I'm talking about a couple years, to really work through that process, because it was heavy. Right, and in order to create that type of space, but what I want to do is, Boog, you can throw in this message, this story, and this podcast is brought to you by WeStandWithGod.com, and so we want you to enjoy this commercial, and we'll come back and we'll throw you some signals, some signs, and things, and how you can help your young people. Of course, be prepared, because these tools and these signs and what you can do is very instrumental. If we can get that, maybe not. We thank you, WeStandWithGod.com. Go to WeStandWithGod.com and get that apparel. So, first of all, we're asking you, the public, right, to donate so we can put up our next billboard. We've been putting up billboards raising awareness that boys 5 to 11 is committing suicide at a very high rate. Number one, in fact, right?
Right.
And so we need your support as we come to the community from time to time and ask you to dive in. Any businesses out there that want to, you can put your logo on the billboard, right? That'll cost you a good $500, right? The billboard costs $2,500. So whatever you do can help us, right, put this message out so we can continue to raise the awareness to the community that suicide is taking the lives of our sons, 5 to 11. We understand that the number 2 way, 10 to 24, is for youth and children, right? But there are a number of things that we're being impacted by, and that is really, really important that we understand what that looks like and where we're headed. So that's $MEGFO. He'll put it back up. And EMIWorld.com, you can donate there and help us put up the billboard for March.
So let me also add that as you support Encourage Me I'm Young, you are really supporting our community. When we serve boys within our community and within our programs, each boy has an impact on their friends, their family, and the circle that they're a part of. So it's not just an isolated giving, it is a giving that really has a return on your investment. So we are really trying to build the work that we're doing, draw more attention to it so that we can help more people have the tools. You don't start a business without having a strong foundation. You don't start a family without having a strong foundation. Amen. And expect it to be thriving. And so our foundation is our children. And so we have to make these investments because they have to have the tools and the equipment and the mindset to be able to navigate these deep waters so that when they're faced with these traumas of the world itself, that they have the resilience to bounce back. But resilience, just like virtue, is taught. It's not something that you automatically have, and that you're born with. The desire is there, but the actual teaching is something that has to be taught. And so our mentors with Emmy, they go through a background check. They go through an interview process. They go through our mentor training academy. So we just don't have any man standing in front of your sons. We have those who have been trained, who have a like mindset and understand the influence of the fatherhood, the influence of having a positive male, healthy male, helping deliver these services. And that's not to say that our mentors aren't dealing with their own challenges as men, because if you're living, you're breathing, and you're giving, you're going to have challenges. But what we're saying is that they're a lot more equipped to handle and navigate and help our boys navigate the different paths and channels that they're going to face in life. So, and moms, as incredible as you are, you can never be the male role model. You can never be that model for him. You have to make sure he's connected to that positive model. And so our programs are research and evidence-based. We actually have, our program has a distinction of being an evidence-based program through University of Michigan. No, yep. U of M, right, our CTAC team. So they actually went through and did a 2-year study of our program and have helped us to get this designation of an evidence-based program. That means that there is evidence that proves that what we do with our EMIY strategy works. So it's important that you know that. It's important that you understand when you're giving to EMI has 15 years of history. This is not something that's a passing fancy. This is not something about being trendy. This is about true impact. And over the 21,000 lives that we have impacted, 68% of those are boys. So if you're looking to really make a difference, and that was one of your New Year's resolutions to be more involved, you don't have to keep looking. This is a seeding program. This is a seeding process. But know that in 10 years, our boys that are 8 to 14 are going to be 18 to 24-year-old men. If you're not investing in them now, you understand what you're going to see in 10 years. So they need all of our investment and help, because otherwise life and trauma and society and the imagery of what men are today is going to follow them into their future. And that's who we are grooming. So if you're looking for this next level intervention, this is where you need to begin. So I thank you for that.
Yes, y'all. To the beat, y'all. Right? So we're going to talk about a couple of signs you should be looking for, right? And then we're going to, later on this month and next month, we're going to bring on some more experts. We're going to be talking about a number of serious things going forward. Because that's what we do, right? We solve problems. We're solution-based. This is what EMI is all about. That's why it's called EMI World. We're building a more encouraging world. Yes. So, what are the signs, right? Here are 2 that I can give, right? Paying attention to your child's wrists and hands and forearms. If they're cutting themselves, you will recognize on their hands, their arms, and their forearms, right? If they're cutting themselves, pay attention to that. Another one is isolation. If a child is always isolating themselves, that means it's a lot going on. Normally they isolate themselves when the parents are at odds, which my kids experienced that, right? Another one that they isolated themselves when they don't want to participate in things. And then, like Stacy said about her brother, pay attention if your son decides to sell his favorite thing. If it's a game, if it's a car, if it's a ball, whatever it is, pay attention if they decide to sell their favorite thing. Because,
or give it away.
Or give it away, right? Because that's exactly what he did. He gave it away, right? And so that's a sign that something is wrong, and it could be them preparing. And even when we had Kevin Fisher talk about how he prepared the whole day, he took the time week before, prepared. He was going to he getting ready to take his whole life, and God intervened with his wife. And his wife decided to take that day off. And since then, he's never had another suicidal moment, right? So those are some of the things that you have to pay attention to for the ladies.
So some of the things that you might want to pay attention to for girls and for women are hair loss. And that because sometimes when you get anxious or nervous, you start to pull. So you start to pull hair, so you'll notice patches, missing patches. That's a big one. You'll notice overly covering up things. So maybe excessive makeup. Some girls and women tend to do because it's a form of trying to cover up their expression, cover up their grief, or cover up their hurt.
Or abuse, yes.
Yes, and so that's really important. Another clue that I want to make sure that I mention is that not just the isolation component, but what you're doing when you're isolated. So you want to look for different substances. So it may not just be alcohol or drugs or marijuana. It's the excessive use of those things, using them also to escape. You tend to want to just be by yourself, but you also tend to go to places where you feel like you can escape. So that might be a friend, that might be, or at least saying that you're with a friend when you're really not, you're somewhere else. And these risky behaviors. So meeting with people who you don't know, meeting people or strangers online, following who you think may be kind of the in crowd. Or so when you start seeing, another big sign is when you start seeing mood shifts, random rapid mood shifts that seem to be triggered or untriggered, especially with our girls, our young girls, our little girls. Pay attention to that. You'll see it more common with older women, but that's for some other reason sometimes. But with the younger girls, when they just have a kind of random outbursts, these are signs. And I would say also with our boys, you have to watch what's happening in those video games, the types of video games that they're watching and engaging in. The more violent those video games, and I'm not talking about, because they're video games that have a skills level attached to it, but that violence is also a cover up. Just like for women, it's makeup. It's also for boys a cover up with the violent games. So asking for them, obsessing over them, because that means that violence is also being played out. And so you have to be mindful of how that violence is playing out in your young man and your daughters as well. But more specifically, you can see it evident in young men because their violence comes from the video game, especially when you try to take the video game or the cell phone from that young person. The minute when they are at a point where they'll fight you for that, that's when you need to really get some new help in. Yeah.
So in doing so, those are just a few signs. I'm sure there are more, but I want to get to the solutions, right? I want to get to how we've had this success that we're having and share more of another way, so to speak. What does it look like? How can you help your young people turn to another way, turn away? Not look at it that way, but look at it this way, right? How can you? So I'll never forget you asked me the question, what do you think it is that has allowed you to have this much success with youth? And the only thing at first I could come up with was the encouragement piece, right? And so I was like, okay, so I went back. And I mean, I went back as we were having this conversation. And one day I posted on my Facebook, I've always been a good person. Now, I did my woman thing, right? And it cost me, but I was always still a good person, right? And so I went back. And I remember Pam them down the street, teaching them to dance as a young man. Come on, get everybody together. I remember trying to have my own fraternity. So I created my own little fraternity, right? Come on, y'all, come on, get on. We gonna create this, fraternity. When I was in high school, it was socializing. It was, all the little things that you can do. We had the little private group, so I was part of music, art, helped build a water purification system in the courtyard. So I've always been a good person. But the one thing that was constantly there whenever people were in trouble, whenever it was Cal, right? And I was encouraging. But what took it to another level was the fact that, Bug, how you doing? What's up, Bug? How, engaging. And so having your own kids in that process, and we're going to go through this process, but having your own children, you have to remember you still have to be encouraging and engaging. A lot of times we forget those things, or we get mad. Oh, I can't stand my teen. I don't want to talk to him, right? Oh, the kid, well, do you want to talk to me? I don't talk to you, right? So that process leads to separation, distance, right? So here's what we did, and then I'm going to take the engagement aspects. You take the empowerment, right? And I'll take the last one, right?
Okay, absolutely.
So parents, people, right? One of the number one things that has allowed us to have this success, and me to have this success for 37 years, youth success, male youth success, female youth success, is the engagement part. I am always engaging. So no matter what, there's a conversation going on. Even when I see young men out getting ready, hey, how you doing, young brother? Well, how you doing, sir? Right? I'm always engaging. Why? Because you never know in your engagement what the response is going to be and the need you are going to have to supply when you engage. So even in our program, even as I've been teaching schools and teachers, the EMIY, the most important aspect is the engagement. Because when you engage me, you are saying that I matter. Even a hello today, everybody's yelling and screaming. Like people don't even say hi no more, right? That's engagement. You pull up to the light. You see somebody with a flat. You look over, but you don't tell them. That's poor engagement. You see a young lady, somebody dropped $20, or a young man, hey man, you dropped your wallet. That's engagement. When I get on the elevator, I'm engaging. She watched me. Restaurants. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I'm engaging, bro. Right? Why? Because you never know whose life you're going to impact with just a simple hello.
Absolutely.
So, hey, how you doing? Oh, yeah, my name is Calvin Mann. How you doing? Yes, sir. Yep, I mentor youth, boys, husbands, and fathers. This is what I do, right? And we have apparel and we do our thing. Here's my card. Hey, how you doing? My name is Calvin, right? So I'm constantly engaging people. That is a way to spread not even just the fact of good, but even your message, right? So always engage people. Hey, how you doing? Don't judge them, because judging them doesn't bring them in. Engagement does. And the energy that you bring with it goes a long way, right? Because we need more engagement. You cut me off. You never say thank you. I let you in to drive the car. You never say thank you. That thank you?
It is meaningful.
It's meaningful, right? Mm-hmm. Because what have you seen with road rage, right? You didn't even say thank you. It was my bad day. They got out. I'm talking about we didn't saw cars get shot just from not saying thank you. That is part of the engagement. And that's what we have to do as parents. We have to have conversations with our children, coming and going. Engage them. Talk to them. Make sure you're talking to them. And listen. Cut the TV off. Don't get blowed around your kids. Don't be drinking around. Give them their time. One of the things that I learned as a father, which helped me become an advocate of fatherhood more than anything, was the fact that when my son came to me on the weekend, nobody could be around. It was his time. That was the deal I made with his mom. Nobody's going to be, when he comes to me, nobody's going to be around. No women, nobody. And we going to have this. That was our engagement.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Calvin, for sharing that. So since I am speaking on empowerment, there are a couple of things I think that are important. So I'm just going to step back and I'm going to go a little bit deeper and not just surface for you today. One of the pieces that you can empower your children and your family and even yourself is to look at your health with a lot more excitement. So there were two simple things that God gave us that we can take advantage of: rain or shine, snow, sleet. It doesn't matter the circumstance. You need to spend at least 30 minutes outside. Be empowered by some of the natural tools that we have. So you need that vitamin D from that sunlight. It also helps to decompress and de-stress you. So you need to be outside at least 30 minutes a day. And even though small breaks add up to your 30 minutes, that's fine. You need that time in order to be really fully powered and empowered. You need that time. The second thing is that you need to make sure that you're drinking enough water. You are low energy and off balance when you are not fully hydrated. Being dehydrated can automatically send you into a depression or a mood swing because your energy is falling. And so those are just two really easy ways to empower yourself and empower others. It helps you to perform at a more peak time of your day and how you are after you engage someone. You're not as tired, so you're empowering them too. Another big piece that you need to make sure that you're connecting with. So in terms of empowerment is really about providing resources, providing the advice, providing the direction, providing the guidance. So those are some of the ways that you can empower. So it's also some practical ways behind empowerment could include let's do something together. Let me show you how to do something, or can you show me how to do something? Our young people are brilliant. This technology, they are so much experts in using it that they have areas where they can teach us if we are receptive to listen. So when you are also empowering them to be teachers, you're also teaching them to lead. And so that empowerment component is really essential to building relationships, and also not just with children, but with each other. Be able to step back. You don't have to know everything, and you don't know everything. So it's good to take other people's objective and subjective ideas and thoughts and opinions as well as your own, so that you can come up with good choices, good decisions, and ways that you have and increase your opportunities. So those things I think are important in empowerment too.
And then the secret sauce, parents. The secret sauce. God talked about it. Abraham changed his name to it, right? And the secret sauce is the encouragement. There's a reason. I guess that I can say being a national encourager, and I'm going to take this moment to throw this in there. Through the years, 37 years, you're 25 years, right? Together, we put a dent in that pipeline. We made sure that the people that came in contact with us was not prisoners, right? And so that I'm most proud of.
And let me say too, prisoners of your own mind and your own circumstance. I think that's so key.
Yeah.
To recognize that when we're saying that, we're not just talking about physical confinement.
Right.
We're talking about mental, spiritual, and emotional confinement.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. And so, writers, coaches, dads, tech, CPAs, like we can go on, right? But the secret ingredient most definitely is the encouragement. So we add this piece. This is why it's called the EMIY, right? We add this piece. Every young man that comes into the mentoring program, every person that I come in contact with, you're going to get this work, right? And the work is encouragement. You can't be, and I need you to understand to use this tool the right way is going to impact your entire home. The very first thing you want to do when you have a young person, this is a shameless plug, the very first thing you want to do is pay attention to them. And when they give you 1 inch of what you ask them to do, then you encourage that. And you encourage that 1 inch to get to the 10 and the 24 and them to the giant. But you use that 1 inch, that very little thing that they get right from what you ask them to do. Put that encouragement on them. Let them know, right? This is a different time, right? This ain't the time where the butt whooping and the abuse that some of us grew up with. This is not that. This is an answer. I'm telling you, because children are going to automatically go through some things anyway because it's in their DNA code from our mess. So they going to go through some things. So you need to pay attention to that one little thing that they give you. Make sure that the encouragement piece is right there. You can do that. I'm so proud you did. Look at you. I told you. You could always do it. For sure. Yep, you can do anything. Right, but you got to put your mind to it. Focus. Right, these are the words, right? Our boys are good. Good job. When they give it to us the right way, good job. This is what they hear. So when they come back home, that's what they're supposed to hear. We are training them to accept encouragement so they can blossom, as she was talking about, where they become the next effective leaders, right? Not talking down to them. Not saying that, oh, you the man of the house. That's too much. You can't put that pressure on a boy. You put that pressure on the boy, he the man of the house, you're going to wear him out. You're going to burn him out because that's a lot of stress. Because then he takes on the mindset, it's a trigger, and now you no longer have a young son growing into manhood, right? He's no longer growing. He automatically skips, and he's going to make a lot of mistakes skipping. We have a lot of people want to take the shortcut. There are no shortcuts. As we explained here, if you want to get your kids in the right frame of mind, out of depression, onto some greatness, doing some great things, understand this formula. Engage them. Spend time with them. Talk with them. Hold them. Touch them. Touch your child. I don't mean spank them, abuse them. I'm talking about touch them. Let them know you care. Grab them. Hug them. Make sure your children are getting these nutrients, right? That is all part of the engagement process. Second, the empowerment. Yep, you can do it. Empower them in their space and what they want to be, and then put that encouragement on it. And so, Heather, this was, I appreciate you sharing your day. I took your day, and spend some time having this conversation. Let the people know where they can see you real quick. We got a few minutes.
Well, I'm glad to be here. These are really important conversations that need to be had. And we always need to make sure that discussion around the problems that we're experiencing. We need more people who are in solution mindset, who are actually contributing to the change you want to see in the world, because we are that change. So not just thinking about it or talking about it, but actually taking the action, take the next steps. And so I know there are a lot of people who who have found their purpose and are walking in that purpose, whatever that might be. Continue, because you being in the right place at the right time, all of us can line up. All of us can line up that way. So I think that's really important as we talk about how do we put a dent? How do we smash suicide? We have to start by decreasing the ideation that goes along with it. Those things that drive us to that point where we feel that the only solution is to exit, as opposed to find another pathway. Those second pathways are really important.
Where can they get you at?
So you can reach me at yourinspiredjourney.com. That's my website. You can email me at Heather at yourinspiredjourney.com. You can visit my Facebook page, my personal page, my business page, YouTube videos. There's lots of information for you to be able to use to help move this process forward for you.
And with that being said, yes, heal us all. Touch is crucial. With that being said, I just want you to take this one thing with you, right? You are on our page. You are on and seeing our message. You may think negatively. You may think positively. You may think this way. We want you to think encouraging. We want you to know that everything that your child dreams is possible. Remember, engage them, empower them, and encourage them. If you need us, you need me to come speak at your schools, come speak it to your office, it's what we do. DM me, we'll come through, make it happen. But remember this, nothing is more important than family. So put your family first. Peace.